Good afternoon. My name is Joe Bandel, and I am the last Rosicrucian. Today we're going to continue our discussion on the 13th century and courtly love. But we're going to go back in time a little bit to uh, a person by the name of Guilhelm in the 11th century, who was the 7th Count of Poitiers and the 9th Duke of Aquitaine. He was the most powerful nobleman in Western Christendom and very influential in the development of this entire idea of courtly love, which we are exploring. He fought against the church doctrine that the fires of hell were stoked especially hot for adulterers. He liked his ladies, apparently, and he wrote poems, and he argued that love was an exaltation, not an abasement of the soul. It was not a sordid sin, but a divine mystery. And the lady that offered that special gift was a goddess to be adored and worshipped. Period. That he basically proclaimed that sexuality elevated the soul. And in a way, what he was doing was bringing tantric philosophy into the Western world for what this is one of the first appearances, and that's what we're going to be talking about here. This idea of the sacredness of sexuality became a favorite theme of scholars, singers, and poets. Now you gotta remember this began during the time of the Crusades, and the man of the house was gone. The ladies were lonely, and they needed some way to spend their time. So the lonely ladies, they wanted to hear love songs that were meaningful to them. And gradually, a convention, kind of like a model or a script, came into being, which became that a great lady fell in love, was loved by a romantic hero of the lower class in some way. And this romantic hero struggled to become worthy of her and to win her love. And in the end, he did win her love. That story was repeated over and over and over in many variations for centuries. It still is today. New paragraph. It was a couple generations later, which would come into maybe like the 12th century, that the prerequisite of virtue and chastity was added to this mix. The songs and poems that were acted out in the fashionable world of the nobility they brought this into existence. Basically, it's just like what happens today. You read about it. Hollywood creates something, and then the general population gets caught up in it, and they try to play make believe and act it out too. And that's what was happening here. But it really caught on. poets declared that elevating love to the immaculate plane of chastity and that it cleansed their own souls of all carnality and left it free to soar, to lift them up into the spirit realm. In this respect, there was different. This was different than the Arab world, where the Arab world created a special place for women in the harem, but virtue and chastity became the European harem. The basic story went kind of like this. The heroine was a lady of high and noble birth that was married to a very powerful husband, and somehow she was not satisfied. She was missing something in her life. Her lover, who was of a lower stature class, strove to become worthy of her and finally at last succeeded in attracting her love, but it had to remain secret, comma. It was a mystery that they both shared and set them apart from other people, period. The interesting thing to this was the power of the power that this whole theme had among the population, because it's still popular today, basically. But back then, the minstrels and the troubadours never sang of consummated love. They only sang of the unconsummated love, the chaste, the love, the kiss, the embrace, and modest contact with the nude lover was permitted, but not the final act of consummation or sex. Now, that kind of leaves it all in a nutshell, but there are such fascinating things that have metaphysical implications and also have tantric implications. One thing is the love triangle. This is even such a powerful concept that the tarot card of the lovers has 3 people in it, not just one person. There's the man, and he has to choose between the angel or the physical woman. And there was something that in this story, something in this fantasy that satisfied the needs of both the body and the spirit for generations, even today. Because even today, the love triangle interferes with so many people's experience in love. Okay, now tantrism taught about the power, the exchanges of sexuality and not just physical sex. An important part of it is talking about the chastity thing, the kiss, the embrace, the holding back in the energies that's developed between the 2 people that's never allowed to be consummated. Dion Fortune, a famed occultist in England, talked about how the use of magic was to deliberately build up those tensions to an electrical point to where they were almost unbearable and intolerable, and then they would use those magical energies in a conscious, deliberate way to create magic, to work magic. So it was not sex magic the way it's commonly thought of. It was actually the tension that was created and not allowed to be consummated. And it's that tension, that energy that's built up that is actually what tantric teachings are really all about, because it is the sharing of those energies on the non-physical planes, non-physical levels, that actually develop the soul. They help to complete a person inside, and they allow males and females to become more sexually balanced, to balance their masculine side and their feminine side, depending on uh, the, who they were. So this went crazy. Now, one of the things to think about here is, okay, so this was the nobility. This was the educated class. This was the higher class, and they were tapping into this high form. This is actually high grade tantrism, even though you might not recognize it as that. But what was happening to the common people? What was happening to sexuality in the common area? They were playing the same games, but they were a lot more undisciplined about it. And sexuality ran rampant among the common folk. I mean, they were just uh, they were just out there, just having having random sex without. I mean, it was crazy. It was all over, and the church was having a very difficult time with it, because they didn't. This was happening in the monasteries. It was happening in to the nuns and the priests and all that. We'll have to continue this. This was part 2. There will be a part 3, quite possibly a part 4. If you enjoy this, please share it with others. Visit my website. There's other things being posted on my website. The link is below. There's also a link on my website to donate. Please consider donating. If every little donation helps. Uh, so thank you for listening and watching. Have a good day.